Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon, dear students. So, as in the previous lecture, we completed the icebreakers and the introduction part of the chapter, that is the pillars of democracy. So, now here in this lecture, we are going to start with the explanation part of the chapter. So, let's just start with the chapter explanation. Pillars of democracy. So, as if you remember, so the chapter is written by B.R. Ambedkar. So, basically, in the whole chapter, he's talking about his own perspective and what exactly do he feel about what's democracy, how can we achieve the democracy, or what exactly the democratic nation is all about, and how can we achieve that, how can we call our country as a nation, and what are the trinity to achieve that, and how exactly we can instead of just talking about it, how we are supposed to achieve it, all the things he talked about in this chapter. So let's start with the chapter. If we wish to maintain democracy not merely in form but also in fact, what must we do? The first thing, in my judgment, we must do is to hold fast to constitutional methods of achieving our social and economic objectives. Now, so the very first thing that B.R. Ambedkar is talking over here, if you want to achieve democracy, so what do we need to do to achieve that? So firstly, what he talks about is, instead of just talking and discussing, holding meetings and everything, we need to practice that. In fact, in reality, we need to do that. In reality, we have to practice it, so that only we can achieve it. If we are just talking about it, just discussing about it, so it won't be possible to achieve. And what he is talking about, the first thing, according to his judgment, what he is saying, that we have to go as per the constitutional methods if we want to achieve the social objectives, the economic objectives. So for that, we have to practice it, or we have to go as per the constitutional method. As we know about the constitution, so all our rights and the duties, being a citizen, and all the law and everything is mentioned in the constitution, as we know, right? So now when we talk about it, so if we have been awarded with so many rights and the duties, at the same time the same rights are also given to the other citizens at the same time, right? So if we are free to enjoy our own rights, so at the same time the other citizens also have their own rights. So if we are performing or enjoying our own rights, we are not supposed to we are not supposed to with someone, if they are enjoying their own rights, we are trying to destroy that, or we are stopping them from doing or from enjoying the rights. So it should not happen like that. If we are enjoying our own, we should let others also enjoy their own rights and to perform their duties or whatever it is. So what he's saying, if we go as per the constitutional method, that's the first thing that in his judgment which we need to do. When there was no way left for constitutional methods for achieving economic and so for unconstitutional methods, but where constitutional methods are open, there can be no justification for these unconstitutional methods. These methods are nothing but the grammar of anarchy, and the sooner they are abandoned, the better for us. So what else he is saying over here? See, in the previous time, till the time when the constitution wasn't framed and everything, so before that, if the people were following unconstitutional method, so there was a great deal of justification. They could have justified that, yes, there was no rule and everything, there was no constitution written that time before this, so they could have justified that. But what now? Now we do have the constitution, right? We have the constitutional methods to follow anything, whatever we want. So now, as we are having the constitution and the methods of it, so we have to go as per that. So the previously, when it wasn't there wasn't great deal of justification, or they could have justified, but not for now. And that's what he's saying. If we have constitution, then we should not go out of that. We should not follow the unconstitutional methods. So what else he is saying? These methods are nothing but the grammar of anarchy, and the sooner they are abandoned, the better for us. So if you are going for the unconstitutional method, that is nothing but grammar of anarchy. And what does it mean? basically where the absence of government or absence of the person who govern the country, or like who control the system basically. So if there is an absence of governing body, obviously there will be disastrous things can happen, right? Everyone just will try to do their own, or follow their own rules, so there will be no proper system in the country. So that's what he's saying. It will be good if we remove all those negativities, or like the unconstitutional methods, if we remove as soon as possible, that will be better for us. The second thing we must do is to observe the caution which John Stuart Mill has given to all who are interested in the maintenance of democracy, namely, not to lay their liberties at the feet of even a great man, or to trust him with powers which enable him to subvert their institutions. There is nothing wrong in being grateful to great men who have rendered lifelong services to the country. Now, what he's saying, the second thing that we need to observe about is the caution basically, and which is given by John Stuart Mill. And what he said, if we want to maintain the democracy, the people who are interested in maintaining democracy, so what we need to do is not to lay their liberties at the feet of even a great man, or to trust him with powers which enables him to subvert their institutions. Means your liberty is yours, your freedom is yours. You are not supposed to give it to someone else, or you should not put your liberty at someone else's feet. Means it's indirectly or interconnected with the hero worship, which we discussed in the previous lecture. Hero worship means what? When when you start worshipping a person. Are you getting the point? When you just do whatever the person is saying. If he says it's night, instead but it's a day, but he says it's night, so you follow that also. You says yes, it is night, because you are saying. If it happens like that, that's what the hero worship. If he says right to the wrong thing also, and you agree to that, that means you're hero worshipping that person. And that's what the thing we need to understand. So if you are putting your liberty on someone else's feet, that what will happen at that time, that you are allowing that person to support the institution. And obviously, if that person is in power, he will support the institution. There is nothing wrong in being grateful to great men who have rendered lifelong services to the country, but there are limits to gratefulness. Now, what he's saying, obviously, if some person have served to the nation and have done a lot of things, or have done the great deeds, so there is nothing wrong in feeling grateful towards that person, right? Because he or she, whoever they are, they served their life towards the country. So there is nothing wrong to feel grateful about that person, but there is a limit. Even when you feel grateful to someone, there is a limit. As has been well said by the Irish patriot Daniel O'Connell, no man can be grateful at the cost of his honor, no woman can be grateful at the cost of her chastity, and no nation can be grateful at the cost of its liberty. So there is an Irish patriot, Daniel O'Connell. He, very beautifully he quoted, or he had written or mentioned that what are the limits basically for a man, for a woman, or for a country? What is a limit of feeling grateful towards someone? If someone have done good for you, you should feel grateful. But even in that, there should be a lit. You cannot just give your life if someone have done good for you, or you cannot just do anything wrong if someone have done good to you. It should not be like that. There should be a limit. Even when you give back to someone whatever they have done for you in return, if you are giving something, there should be a limit in giving whatever you are giving. Okay, so what is mentioned very clearly or beautifully here, about a man, what he is mentioned, that if a man is grateful towards anyone, so he should not feel grateful at the cost of his honor. Means if he is feeling grateful towards anyone, but for that he should not sacrifice his honor just to show his gratefulness. And the women should not feel grateful, or they should feel grateful, but not at the cost of her chastity. Chastity means purity or modesty, means she should not sacrifice her modesty just to show her gratefulness towards anyone. And at the same time, what he discusses about the nation, that the nation should not feel grateful at the cost of its liberty, means just to show the gratefulness, the nation should not sacrifice its liberty. This caution is far more necessary in the case of India than in case of any other country. For in India, bhakti, or what may be called the path of devotion or hero worship, plays a part in its politics unequaled in magnitude by the part it plays in the politics of any other country in the world. So what he's saying, this is necessary, especially in the case of India, because India is a country where the devotion is very important, or the devotion is there in many of the things, or the hero worship is there. So if we compare India with any other country, what he's saying, that this case you will find in India. As we know, the term bhakti, or the devotion, plays very important role in politics over here. So what he is saying, bhakti in religion may be a road to the salvation of the soul, but in politics, bhakti or hero worship is a sure road to degradation and to eventual dictatorship. So now what he is saying, if you are showing your devotion in religion, that might be the road or the path towards the salvation. Salvation means what? Salvation of the soul, where you feel free, or liberated, or your soul feels liberated, or free from any kind of burden or anything like that. So if you follow devotion in religion, that can be the path towards the salvation. But if you follow hero worship, or if you show the devotion in politics, means in politics, if you do the hero worship, if in politics you show your devotion, so that will be basically worshipping a person, not a god, right? So when you worship a person instead of worshipping God, that means that will definitely lead you towards the dictatorship, or towards the degradation of a country. And then what he's saying later on the 26th of January 1950, we are going to enter into a life of contradictions. In politics, we will have equality, and in social economic life, we will have inequality. Now what he is saying, from the 26th January 1950, what he is saying, as we know, 26th January, why do we celebrate as a Republic Day, right? And why do we celebrate that? Because the constitution was implemented on that day. From that day we started following 26th January 1950, right? So that's what he's saying, that from 26th January 1950 we were about to enter in the world of contradictions. Contradiction means what? If basically I'm giving two statements and both are opposite of each other, or completely different of each other, that will be the contradictory statement, right? So contradictory world means what? Or the world of contradictions means what? Means what he is mentioning, we are going to enter the world where there will be the life of contradictions, because in the politics we will be providing by the equal rights, but when it will be coming to the social life or the economic life, we will not have any equal rights, or we will not get the equality in the social or economic life. And so what he is mentioning over here, basically, because in politics we do have the equal rights, but what about the social and economic terms? So what he is saying over here, that later in politics going to enter into a life of contradictions. In politics we will have equality, and in social economic life we will have inequality. In politics we will be recognizing the principle of one man one vote, and one vote one value. In our social and economic life we shall, by reason of our social and economic structure, continue to deny the principle of one man one value. How long shall we continue to live like this? live this life of contradictions. So what he's saying, in the politics we will have the equal rights, like one man one vote. Obviously how rich or how poor you are, it doesn't matter. How if you belong to the higher caste or the lower caste, doesn't matter at all. If you are an Indian, you have a right to vote, cast one vote, just to give one vote. You cannot give two votes at a time, even if you are the richest person of this country. That's what the equality in the politics. And one vote one value. If you have given one vote, so your vote will be counted as one. If you are the richest person of the country, so your vote won't be counted as two, right? And if you even belong to higher caste or the lower caste, it doesn't matter at all. If you, from wherever you come, or to whichever caste or whichever religion, to whichever background you belong, that doesn't matter at all. If you have given vote, it will be counted as one. It won't be counted as two vote. So that's what the equality in politics. But what about the social and economic life? In social and economic life, you will be denied with your rights and with the equality. How long shall we continue to live this life of contradictions? Obviously, is everyone equal in the economical status, or financial status? Is everyone equal? Obviously not. Or do we have the equality in that, in social or economic life? Obviously not. So that's what the B.R. Ambedkar is mentioning, that in social and economic life you will be denied with your rights. How long shall we continue to deny equality in our social and economic life? If we continue to deny it for long, we will do so only by putting our political democracy in peril. So what he is mentioning, if we continue to deny like this, these things, whatever is happening, or if we are not getting our rights, equality or everything, so it's just about putting our democracy into peril. Peril means at risk or in a danger. We must remove these contradictions at the earliest possible moment, or else those who suffer from inequality will blow up the structure of political democracy which this assembly has no laboriously built up. Now, what he is saying, if we do not remove these contradictions at earliest possible, so that moment is not so far when the people who suffered due to these inequalities, so they will blow up the structure of political democracy. So for that, what he is saying, we should try to remove this as soon as possible. The second thing we are wanting is is recognition of the principle of fraternity. Fraternity means what? The sense of common brotherhood. What does fraternity mean? Fraternity means a sense of common brotherhood of all Indians, if Indians being one people. It is the principle which gives unity and solidarity to social life. It is a difficult thing to achieve. How difficult it is can be realized from the story related by James Bryce in his volume on American Commonwealth about the United States of America. Now, what second thing he's talking about over here is the recognition of the principle of fraternity. And what does fraternity means? A sense of common brotherhood. Means where we feel all the Indians being one people. If we have that kind of feeling in us, so that's what it's all about. And we need to have solidarity, in social life and in everything. So how difficult it is to achieve this solidarity, we can understand by the example, or by the story which is given by the James Bryce in the American Commonwealth, in his volume of American Commonwealth. He mentioned a story, so we'll just see to it so that we can understand. So American Commonwealth about the United States of America. The story is, I propose to recount it in the words of Bryce himself. So what he's saying, I would like to recall it in the words of Bryce himself only. Some years ago, the American Protestant Episcopal Church was occupied at its triennial convention in revising its liturgy. So basically what he's saying, before few years ago, the American Protestant Episcopal Church, they were that church was occupied at its triennial convention. Triennial means the anniversary, the 300th year anniversary basically. So they were gathered over there for the convention in revising its liturgy. Liturgy means the rites prescribed for public worship, means that how a public worship should be done and everything. So to prescribe about that, the gathering was there, and then it was thought desirable to introduce among the short sentence prayer a prayer for the whole people. And an eminent New England divine proposed the words, "O Lord, bless our nation." So now basically, they required, or they felt to revise the prayer, okay, and to make it short. And then what they did, they proposed the sentence, "Oh Lord, bless our nation." Okay, and that was accepted one afternoon. Then the next day, the sentence was brought up for the reconsideration. Why? When so many objections were raised by the laity means basically the people of religious community, to the word nation as importing too definite a recognition of national unity, that it was dropped, and instead they were adopted the words, "Oh Lord, bless these United States." So basically, when they stated, "Oh Lord, bless our nation" as a part of prayer, so that day it was accepted before that, but the another day when it was brought up for the reconsideration, people objected on that. And what people did, they thought it is not the correct statement to give, because that time they were not considering themselves as united, or as they were not considering themselves as the nation, as they were like a bit scattered or not that much completely united, so they were not ready to accept themselves as a nation. So what they said, that this statement might be wrong, and instead of stating that statement, what they did, they changed a bit, and they made a bit changes. And what they made it, they adopted another sentence, and that was, "Oh Lord, bless these United States." That's what they said. Then there was so little solidarity in the USA at the time when this incident occurred, that the people of America did not think that they were a nation. If people of the United States could not feel that they were a nation, how difficult it is for Indians to think that they are a nation. So just imagine, if in USA that time there was a very little solidarity, they were not ready. With this incident, we came to know that they were not ready to consider themselves as a nation. So just imagine how difficult it is going to be for us, for Indians, to accept that we are not a nation yet. If the people of United States could not feel that they were a nation, how difficult it is for Indians to think that they are a nation. I remember the days when politically minded Indians resented the expression "the people of India." They preferred the expression "the Indian nation." I am of opinion that in believing that we are a nation, we are cherishing a great delusion. Delusion means what? Like, basically a mistaken idea or an opinion. So what he's saying, I remember some politically minded people stating before some time, as a nation they called our country. So I feel like personally, if calling our country as a nation, I believe like we are in a great delusion, or because he did not agree with this point, B.R. Ambedkar, that we are a nation that time. So what he says, if we follow that, or if we state our country as a nation, that means we are cherishing a great delusion. How can people divided into several thousands of castes be a nation? The sooner we realize that we are not as yet a nation in the social and psychological sense of the word, the better for us. Now what he's saying, you know what, we are divided into thousands of different castes. So the country which is divided into thousands of castes, how we can even think of considering ourselves as a nation? Just think about it. And the USA, where there was no caste system at all, they were not ready to accept that they were a nation. So how can we think of doing this, that when we are divided into thousands of castes? So how can we even think of feeling like that? So first, very important thing, we need to realize it, that we are not yet a nation. So the sooner we realize, the better for us. For then only we shall realize the necessity of becoming a nation and seriously think of ways and means of realizing the goal. See, all of us have some bad habits, right? Or all of us do something wrong. But sometimes we don't even realize that, or sometimes we don't accept that. right? But if you realize, or if you accept your mistakes, your bad habits, then only you will realize, right, that yes, I need to change it. If you don't only realize, how will you make or feel the necessity of changing that or improving that? Obviously, if we realize something, then only we try to make that better or change that, correct? So that's what he's saying. For achieving the or calling our country as a nation, first of all we need to realize that we are yet not a nation. Then only we will realize the importance or the necessity of becoming a nation. And then what he is saying after that, for then only we shall realize the necessity of becoming a nation and seriously think of ways and means of realizing the goal. The realization of this goal is going to be very difficult, far more difficult than it has been in United States. And what he's saying, realizing this thing is going to be very difficult. And it is going to be far more difficult than how it have been in United States. The United States has no caste problem. In India, there are caste. The caste are anti-national. What he's saying, because for United States it was difficult, but not like the way it is difficult for us, because they had no caste system over there, right? And even there were no caste system over there. Now, but in India, as we know, there are so many different kind of caste, right? And the caste, what he's calling caste as anti-national. Obviously it is anti-national because, like, if the caste system becomes hurdle at many places, right? And it goes against of any country. So in the first place, because they bring about separation in social life, obviously it separates people. If you start judging people, or if you start calling people by their caste, so obviously it's separating them, right? So that's what he's saying, that caste brings separation first of all. And then what happens, what he's saying over here after that, in social life they are anti-national also, because they generate jealousy and antipathy between caste. And so that's what he's mentioning over here, that it brings the differentiation, and it brings the jealousy. So what he's saying, the jealousy factor, if will be there, so obviously that will be a problem for us. Then that's what we need to realize, the very important part, right? So obviously, like, if one caste is getting preference over the other, so obviously it will indirectly, or ultimately it will create jealousy in the other person, right? That yes, they are getting preference because of this caste, because of that caste. So obviously that will be the reason of the jealousy, right? So that's what we need to understand. So I hope you must have understood this much. Thank you very much.